Hi, everybody. Welcome to a discussion on Hub Cymru Africa's 10 recommendations ahead of the Senedd election. We have got a number of speakers with us today. Julian, can I ask you to say hello and introduce yourself, please?
Hello, yep, I'm Julian Rosser and I am the head of Hub Cymru Africa.
Thank you. Isra, can I ask you to introduce yourself, please?
Borida, everyone. I'm Isra Mohammed. I'm the chair of Global Health Partnerships Cymru.
Thank you very much. And Aileen.
Bore da, Aileen Dwi, Pennaeth Cymru Masnach Deg. Morning, everyone. I'm Aileen, and I'm the head of Fair Trade Wales.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Okay, Julian, I think we can go straight ahead into your presentation about the 10 recommendations, please.
Marvelous. Okay, well, let me see if I can share my screen and get that up. And let's see, is that working?
Yes, it is
Wonderful.
fantastic.
Jolly good. First of all, I'll say a little bit about Hub Cymru Africa and who we are. So, Hub Cymru Africa is Wales's leading international development and global solidarity organisation. We support organisations across Wales in building sustainable links and projects in partnership with organisations in Africa and beyond. So Hub Cymru Africa is actually a partnership of four different organisations. We've been in existence since 2015, but the four organisations that are members of the partnership now are Fair Trade Wales. We have Aileen here today, Global Health Partnerships Cymru, and we've got Isra here today, Cymru Global, which is the new name for the Welsh Centre for International Affairs, and the Sub-Sahara Advisory Panel, which is based in Cardiff, and the Sub-Sahara Advisory Panel is the host organisation for Hub Cymru Africa. Our vision as a team is a globally responsible Wales that acts in solidarity with the people of Africa. Our mission is to be a catalyst for change, contributing to global development outcomes by supporting the Wales and Africa community. So what do we do in pursuit of that mission? We organise training, we organise shared learning and networking events to bring together the community in Wales. So that community involves Wales Africa partnerships, small and medium-sized charities, health partnerships, fair trade campaigners, and anybody else who is acting in global solidarity to achieve development outcomes in Africa and also in other parts of the world. We provide information and guidance to those groups. We provide free fundraising updates so people can check out our website to get regularly updated lists of grants that are available. We organise peer support and mentoring to bring the community together to talk to each other. We can do one-to-one development support, where people can book a meeting with our development support managers to talk about the challenges that they're facing and discuss ways of overcoming them. We do policy work and advocacy in Wales. We support campaigns. We do communications about global development, about international solidarity, and about global justice issues. And we also run a volunteering program. So people can apply to volunteer with us or with other organisations who are working within the sector. And if you run an organisation and you're looking for volunteers, then get in touch with us. We may be able to find some volunteers to place with you. So we're doing this today because the Senedd elections are coming up on the 7th of May. The future Welsh Government could do all sorts of things that are relevant to global solidarity. It's important to note that Hub Cymru Africa is funded by Welsh Government. So I would say, I'd have to say that I can declare an interest in this topic because we know the Welsh Government has funded this kind of work for around 20 years now, and a future Welsh Government could expand that work or it could just choose to drop it. But it's not just about us. It's not just about our funding. It's also about the funding that lots of organisations in Wales get to work on Wales Africa projects. And it's important to notice that other policies can impact global justice. And we'll come to some of those in a minute. But as a partnership, we got together and we wanted to see what sorts of policies we'd like to see the next Welsh Government implementing to make Wales a more globally responsible nation. And the 10 policies that follow are the main things that we came up with. I'll talk through some of them, and I'll also be turning to Kath and to Aileen and to Isra to talk a little bit more about those policies that they know far more about than I do. But we'll start with number one, which is that we'd like to see a minister appointed in the new government who's got responsibility for internationalism and climate change. And we would like that minister to develop a strategy for global responsibility and seek a new partnership with the UK government to deliver global solidarity projects. Now, this is important because for the last few years, the international relations portfolio in Welsh Government has been with the First Minister. And there's lots of good reasons why the First Minister might want to have oversight of that sort of work. But what it does mean is that actually a lot of the international work gets drowned out because the First Minister has got an awful lot on her plate, lots of things going on every day, and it's quite difficult sometimes for the First Minister to give attention to issues around global solidarity. So we'd really like to see a minister appointed who looks over all of those sorts of things. And global responsibility at the moment is a legal requirement. The Wellbeing of Future Generations Act, which was passed by the Senedd, possibly then the Assembly, in 2015, says that seeking to be a globally responsible nation is very much part of what the Senedd and the whole public sector in Wales should seek to do. Number two, and definitely declaring an interest, we'd like to see the Wales and Africa programme supported and expanded. And that programme at the moment supports us. It puts in place a grant scheme so that organisations in Wales can apply for funding to run Wales, Africa and Fair Trade Partnership projects. We'd like to see that expanded so that there are more money available for groups in Wales to do work. And we'd like to see a clear focus on projects that are being led by members of the African diaspora in Wales. And we've seen an awful lot of members of the African diaspora run amazing projects, very often in their countries of origin, though not exclusively in their countries of origin. And we really need to see more leadership from the African diaspora in Wales, and we'd like to see Welsh Government support to enable that to happen. I will bring in Isra to talk a little bit about ethical partnerships between Wales and countries from which we're recruiting health workers, because it's quite clear that if we are bringing in fully trained health workers to work within the NHS, then actually that represents a subsidy that those countries are giving to us. So Isra, could you tell us a little bit about this issue and why it's a problem and what we should be doing about it?
Thank you very much, Julian. It's quite important to support the ethical partnerships between Wales and the countries from which it's recruiting the NHS workers or health workers in general. We are aware that the NHS Wales is deeply dependent on internationally recruited staff. And in the recent report that was conducted across the UK, 1 in 3 doctors were trained overseas across the UK. So the question here about how the UK and Wales also as well specifically can contribute to the co-investment theory. If the Wales is recruiting for other countries, what in return Wales would provide from that recruitment. And I just want to highlight here the diaspora in the NHS Wales, their contributions to their countries of heritage as well. We know that the diaspora staff, they directly or indirectly support their countries of heritage, whether they use their money to support their families or family members or the health systems overseas, but also how they are actually providing mentorship, how they are providing bi-directional elements in many aspects. So what we would like the new Welsh Government to do is to support those diaspora staff and to look at ways and systems of providing back to the countries from which Wales is recruiting the health workers. And we're just going to post here, or Catherine will post here, a link to a recent report by all-party parliamentary group on global health and security that found around 14 billions were saved from international recruited staff. So that's a big number, and the calculations were based on recent years. So I think that just gives us an idea of how much could be saved from internationally recruited staff, and the ethical obligation of Wales and other countries within the UK to look at this more deeply and to find ways of supporting the co-investment itself. How can the Wales co-invest and give back to the countries from which it recruited the international health workers? I'm not sure if Catherine, if you have the link to the inquiry. If not, I should have.
I think I've put both links in the chat.
Fabulous, fabulous. Thank you, Kath. And if you look at the next one, Julian, the implementation of the Charter for International Health Partnerships in Wales. We know that so many NHS workers across and across many health institutions in Wales here, health boards, have been contributing to the international solidarity, international health in many aspects. And we have strong policies in Wales. We have the Charter for International Partnerships in Wales, produced by Public Health Wales. And I'm sure Kath will put the link in the chat as well. So I'd like to have a systemic way of supporting staff who are doing and contributing to international health in many areas, whether doctors, nurses, physiotherapists, or whoever is involved in these activities. How would the Welsh Government, the NHS, support the staff by providing them with the necessary support, leave, and
Isra, I'm really sorry, Isra. I'm very sorry. I accidentally muted you. There was background noise. I was muting somebody else. So sorry.
no, that's
Go back
okay.
about 20 seconds. I'm very sorry.
No, that's absolutely fine. No worries. Thank you. Yeah, I just want to highlight here the necessity of implementing the charter itself. Would like to see all senior management, line managers, colleagues within the NHS supporting the charter itself, and would like to see more heterogeneity. We have seen lots of heterogeneity in the support. We'd like to see more homogeneity in the support, and how the NHS on the health system in Wales follow and implement this charter is something that's very distinct to Wales compared to other countries in the UK. This charter is quite special to Wales, I would say. Not all the other countries in the UK have the same policy. So we got this special leave and got that covered. So that's quite impressive, to be honest, in Wales. But we would like to see some actions taken across the health system in Wales. Thank you. I think these are the main health asks, in addition to the expansion of Wales and Africa program. We have more than 25 active health links in Wales, the charities in Wales who are doing amazing job in Africa and other LMICs. I would like to see that expanded, and would like to see them surviving but also thriving. Would like to support more countries in low and middle income countries, and support more charities in Wales doing the incredible work that they have been doing over the last few years. Thank you. I think that's it from me, but happy to take any questions later. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Isra. We'll definitely be coming back to you to talk about some more of these things in a moment. Now, let's see if I can move on. Yeah, we'll come to Aileen, as we've got a couple particularly about trade and fair trade.
Thank you, Julian. Yes. So fair trade is about getting better pay and amplifying the voices of producers of the products that we love and enjoy. And this ask is about continuing to develop Wales as the world's first fair trade nation. Wales became a fair trade nation back in 2008, and we have celebrated that. And the Welsh Government has been very supportive previously in signing up to the commitments of being a fair trade nation. A few years ago, we renewed what being a fair trade nation meant, and it's about having widespread awareness throughout the country, about having engagement with organisations across Wales, about supporting businesses to both use and sell fair trade products, to support procurement, which I'll talk a little bit more about, which is public bodies buying fair trade, about making sure that fair trade is taught in education and in the curriculum, and also about connecting fair trade to wider issues. Fair trade is also about the environment, it's also about women's rights. It's also about historical legacies of products, and so making those connections with other things. And we want a new Welsh government to commit to these new criteria of being a fair trade nation, and specifically by looking at its fair trade and sustainable purchasing. So I'll be talking a bit later about the Social Partnership and Public Procurement Act, which is a going to be rolled out this year, and public bodies are going to have to think about how they buy things. And when we want them thinking, we want them to be thinking about fair trade and making sure that those supply chains have got workers' rights and fair pay embedded within it.
Thank you, Elaine. And the next one here is more about kind of trade policy at a UK level and what the Welsh Government can do about that.
Yes, so fair trade has products which are examples of how trade can be better, but what we want to look for is systemic change. So actually changing how global trade policy works, because at the moment it still protects richer countries and negatively impacts poorer countries. And so we are looking to influence UK trade policy by working with the Welsh Government's trade policy team. Trade is something that the UK is responsible for organising and arranging. It's not devolved to Wales, but the Welsh Government are able to input into the UK trade negotiations and have discussions. And so we talk to the Welsh Government and we want them to prioritise fair trade, workers' rights and environmental protection. These things are very often included as afterthoughts in trade policies or as optional chapters within trade deals between different countries. And at the moment, trade and tariffs are very high on the world's agenda. And we want to make sure that when those deals are being struck, that they are ethical and fair.
Brilliant. Thank you. So we'll move on to a few that I'll be talking about. And one thing is, immensely important in terms of global responsibility is climate change. It is one of the greatest injustices happening in the world right now. And fundamentally, it's because rich countries have caused climate change. It's rich countries overwhelmingly who have put the pollution in the atmosphere, which is warming the climate. But it is overwhelmingly the poorest people in low and middle income countries who are bearing the brunt of climate change. And that's for a number of reasons, including the fact that warming tends to be increased at and around the equator, which is where a lot of low and middle income countries are. Also because in severe weather events, floods, droughts, hurricanes, again, it is those people who have the fewest resources who are least able to deal with shocks, who are uninsured, who do not get timely information about things that are going on. And what we've seen as well is that it is, again, disproportionately women who are impacted by a change in climate around the world. Wales was one of the first countries to industrialize. The UK, of course, industrialized very early, and is particularly responsible for an awful lot of the carbon dioxide that's in the atmosphere. So while it is important that the entire world manages to get to a point where we're no longer putting carbon dioxide into the atmosphere by the year 2050. If we are to do that globally in a just way, taking into account the fact that rich countries have polluted far more than poorer countries, then those rich countries who've done that need to be decarbonising earlier than other countries in the rest of the world. So that's why, in order to embed a sense of justice in the way that we deal with climate change, we would say that Wales should be reaching net zero greenhouse gas emissions by around 2035, and that it's important that equity and justice are embedded within those targets. And we talk about equity and justice in those targets because it's also important that it's not the poorest people in Wales and in the UK who are hit hardest by policies which are about reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So we need to see a just transition away from fossil fuels and away from those activities which are causing climate change. So we need to see policies put in place that ensure that the poorest people in Wales are also protected during this transition that we have to go through. We do a lot of work to support the African diaspora in Wales, as I've mentioned, and we think that it's really important that the African diaspora and other diasporas are at the forefront of the efforts that we're making in global solidarity. So we would like to see the next Welsh Government supporting diaspora-led global solidarity projects, and that would include research. It would include storytelling, as storytelling is so important to engage the public with global solidarity issues. And we'd like to see support for practical projects to share new narratives about what's happening in the world and how we should be responding. We'd also like to see the Welsh Government create a People's Assembly on global justice that will bring together people from all around Wales, from all backgrounds, a great diversity of people around Wales, to talk about our role in global justice, what is Wales's history, and what can Wales's future be. And we would like that People's Assembly to have some real policy influence within Cardiff Bay and within the Welsh Government. Education is crucially important, and Kath, this is a particular area in which you've got some expertise, lots of expertise. So I'd be grateful if you could tell us a little bit about some of the educational things that we've been looking to see happen.
Thank you. I would say some expertise, maybe not all, maybe not loads. Thank you, Julian. So in terms of funding education programs that develop the curriculum, it's vitally important for looking at how we make sure that it is not tokenistic when we talk about people from other countries, particularly African countries that often are stereotyped. And so it's really important that there's a depth of understanding that supports the aims of the Anti-Racist Wales Action Plan. Recommendations from the Children's Commissioner. The Children's Commissioner for Wales did research into racism in schools in Wales, and it shows that it is still very much an everyday issue. And so it's really important that there's more investment that goes into that. Also, learning about global issues, including climate justice and fair trade and peace building. This comes under a lot of programs. So, for example, Eco Schools, which is run by Keep Wales Tidy. I've forgotten now what WCIA are now called. Cymru Global. Cymru Global with their, Peace for Schools peace program, and of course Fair Trade Wales. The opportunities that are at risk of being lost through funding for things like tithe are detrimental to the opportunities, particularly for children from underprivileged backgrounds that are often unrepresented in these schemes because it's not affordable for them. So it's really important that those transformational and life-changing opportunities remain.
Thank you, Kath. So, yeah, like to see, strong strand of policy there, which is about engaging and educating young people. And then we'd also, it's not just about young people. We'd also like to see the Welsh Government supporting international exchange opportunities. So for people of all ages and importantly, all backgrounds to offer life-changing experiences, develop cultural understanding, build global solidarity, and foster active global citizenship. So some of this connects back to some of the things that Kath was talking about the Tithe Project, but we've also seen some of this work through the Welsh Government's International Learning Opportunities Programme, and that's a programme which allows Welsh professionals to spend a couple of months in Uganda, in Namibia, or in Lesotho, undertaking professional projects there. And we find that, those sorts of projects can be quite transformative for the people involved. They can help support organizations in Africa, but the real value really comes from the experiences that they gain and the expertise that they can bring back to Wales. So that is it. That's our 10 key points. It was quite a struggle, I will tell you, to go to 4 organisations and say, what would you like to see achieved all together over the next 5 years? I think we got about 50, 60 different points altogether that came back. So we did our best to prioritise. That's, of course, it's just a selection of some of the things that we'd like to see happening in the next Welsh Government. And so let's see if there are any questions. Kath, you're facilitating, so
Okay, no, there are not any questions in the chat at the moment. What I would say is that feel free to take yourself off mute or raise your hand. This session is being recorded. We've had a couple of people arrive late, so the session is being recorded. But just to know that you won't be on the video unless you take yourself off mute, and then if you do, we can always edit it afterwards if you don't want to be on the video. Whilst we wait for people to maybe warm up, shall I ask a question? Okay, so thank you. The recommendations are really interesting, and I think all of them are equally important and valuable. Why do they matter? Can I ask if we can go around our presenters and kind of summarize why you think it matters that we have these recommendations?
Can I
shall
go
I start?
first?
Oh,
Okay,
Isra.
go
Go on, Isra.
Thank you, Julian. I think talking from health partnership perspectives, it's very important to highlight on the recommendations that we mentioned, part of the Hub Cymru Africa 10 recommendations. And Wales has strong appearance in the international stage. It's a small country, has given a lot to the world through many programs and many activities, and would like also here to highlight Dolin Cymru and the relationship that was established 40 years ago, even before people started to talk about partnerships. And Wales has been really good in establishing the bi-directional element early on, before we started to recently focus on it. It's always been based on mutual benefit, that both countries, Wales and other countries, benefit from international work or solidarity itself, and the shared learning, the shared responsibilities. It's very important. And we learned from COVID-19 that health systems operate together. We cannot live in a locked, I would say, world. Infections transfer through countries, and we know that climate also shocks affect countries around the world. So it's very important for us to work together with partners in other countries, especially in low and middle income countries. And as we give, Wales has a lot to give, so many things to give to lots of countries, but there's so many things that we can learn from low resource settings. You see, like how the health professionals in many African countries are able to perform their activities and utilize the limited resources to contain outbreaks, to establish or to continue their infection prevention control practices, and how they are using, lots of innovative approaches that are very cheap to run their health systems, and how we can use this in Wales, how we can learn from these countries and implement it in Wales. And I would also like to highlight here the health professionals, the NHS workers who have supported lots of, or contributed to lots of international activity. They go with different perspective and they return back with completely different, ideas and innovative approaches. And they develop lots of leadership skills. They contribute back to their teams, to the health boards in Wales. So I think it's very important to maintain that, and also to expand it and make it bigger. And I think there's so many things that we can do together with other low and middle income countries, in addition to the one that we already work with. This is from my perspective, but yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Isra. Eileen?
Yeah, for me, why the 10 recommendations matter is because they embed global action across government. At the moment, government has got its international sort of section, and it kind of sits fairly separately from the rest of what's going on sometimes. And the breadth of recommendations that we have here, and the fact that the different partners have got different expertise in different areas, means that it shows that that global action can happen in education, in health, in purchasing, and in trade, and in a whole variety of different ways. And that's really good, because the more we can get a wider people in government to think about global action, the stronger our cause becomes.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Go on, Julian.
Exactly. Yeah, I'd say I think it matters because it is about what sort of country we want to be, and we've been on an interesting journey since devolution in 1999, and the assembly was established. It took a while for the assembly to decide that actually it wanted to have a role in the broader world. But I think that it's very important that as Wales, we say we want to be an outward-looking, generous, receptive nation that wishes to engage positively with the world. We're a very small country. We don't have a lot of resources, but I think we need to think as we should think as individuals of, what does it mean to be a good person? I think we should think as a country, what does it mean to be a good country within that family of nations? And I think that considering global responsibility is a key part of that, and putting in place some of these policies is a good place to start.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Julian. We have a question from Peter. He's saying he says that Julian mentioned education exchange opportunities. He says that must include incoming participants from Africa as well as outgoing ambassadors to Wales. Is that aimed at schools, college-age students, or young professionals, researchers to come here to study? So really quickly, Peter, there is the Tithe programme is coming to an end. They've just done the last round now, and that funded reciprocal visits at 30%. So 30% of the people from Wales going out for that group, they could bring back then funding. They had enough funding then to bring back 30% of that for reciprocal visits back to Wales. It would be my personal view. I'm not sure if this is Hub Cymru Africa's view, but my personal view would be it would be fantastic if Tithe does come back, or a similar kind of iteration of it did come back under the next government, that the reciprocal visits was equal. Our experience of it at Dolin is that schools have been fundraising to match that so that they can have an equal number, because of the values of understanding how much that benefits communities in Wales. And it's really important for that equity of relationship and that equity of partnership working that is so valuable and gives us so many positive benefits. I don't know if anybody else wants to answer that question. Go on, Julian, please.
I'll just say briefly, I agree with you, Kath. I think it really is important that we get people from Africa able to come here as well. Um, and one of the key problems with that of some of the reciprocal visits that we've seen is a difficulty in getting visas. And we were hoping at our recent event for International Women's Day to host three women from Kenya who've been involved in a tree planting scheme in Kenya funded by Tree Flights. And none of them was able to come to the event or to Wales because their visas were all refused. And so, this of course is not within Welsh Government gift, but I think it would be really helpful if the Welsh Government were to join us in campaigning and lobbying for some of those visas to be made more achievable for people in Africa to come and visit.
That's a really good point. Thank you very much, Julian. Isra.
Yeah, I think this is an excellent point, and I resonate with what Julian and Kath have already mentioned. I think more facilitation from the Welsh Government would be very helpful to emphasize on that bi-directional implementation of the recommendations or the international activities. Just would like to highlight here an example of our Wales Malawi antimicrobial stewardship program. We have colleagues in the NHS Wales pharmacists who have been working with colleagues in Malawi, and they managed actually to visit Malawi, but also Malawi pharmacists managed to visit Wales. And there's so many learnings from there. So I think it's very important for both countries to look at the different health systems and to have in-person visit. And I'm sure that the schools and children and students in uni would benefit from visiting Wales, as well as Welsh students visiting other countries. So I totally support what Julian has just mentioned. I think more support from the Welsh Government would be very helpful in facilitating the visa requirements and other challenges. Thank you.
Thanks, Isra. And I think that ties in really nicely with a lot of the things that we've been saying. So, Isra, what you said about the history of Wales as being outward, being outward looking. I think it's really important that people in Wales recognize the Welsh heritage of looking outwards and of being welcoming and interested in and standing in solidarity with people from all of the countries. And I think that the the more energy we can put into supporting young people and for all generations to recognize that, I think that helps with the broader conversation around things like why is immigration so difficult, isn't it? Specifically from specific countries. But we are going slightly off track, so let's jump in with the next question. There aren't any other questions in the chat, so I will really quickly come up with my other question, which was again for each of you. I don't know if we've covered this actually. How would fulfilling the recommendations help groups and charities, specifically kind of in the Wales Africa sector? Because I think a lot of charities see these recommendations as being quite broad and then maybe not specific to them. And a lot of our, community, the struggle for funding is real, and that's kind of the primary kind of concern. Why should they engage with these wider kind of topics? Aileen.
So for me, one of the reasons to engage with the wider topics is that it helps build that big picture that you can then put your organisation in, and that will help you get more funding and get more volunteers and get more notice. So when politicians or funders think there is an issue that is at a national level, and then you can say, well, we're addressing that issue with what our charity's doing, you are definitely more able to get funding. And therefore, when we join together to talk about these bigger issues, for example, the visa issue with fair trade, we also have that. We have fair trade producers. We want to bring them to Wales. We want people to be able to go out and visit. And we can't always do that. And we invest a lot of time into it. So when all of us together can talk about the same issue, there's something much wider that we can have. So I think it helps groups. We're a micro organisation at Fairtrade Wales. Many Wales Africa groups are as well. When you can put yourself in that big picture, it can really help support what you're doing.
Lovely, thank you. Anybody else want to take it?
I'll say a little. I think people in Wales are keen to do these sorts of things. That wherever you go in Wales, there are communities and groups who get together, who want to make a difference internationally, who want to act in global solidarity, and that is something that's hardwired into the Welsh psyche and history. So whether Welsh Government supports this kind of work or not, it will go on and it will happen. I think the benefit that's come from the very small amounts of resource that Welsh Government has put in to this sort of work is just around there being some capacity to support those groups, to hold their hands when things are tricky, to stand shoulder by shoulder with them in what they're doing, to help groups get together, to provide information, support, advice, access to, and obviously something that will be important to an awful lot of groups is around funding, and around ensuring that there is still some funding that's available for small groups to undertake the sorts of projects that they're doing that are making a genuine difference to people's lives in Africa and in Wales. And as we see more and more, unfortunately, the kind of rolling back of things like international aid, seen it across Europe, the USA, and particularly harshly, massive cuts to the aid budget from the UK government, then it means that groups in Wales are not able to access those sorts of funds. A few years ago, groups in Wales were able to access funding from the UK government to run international projects. Now, I would say it's virtually impossible for any Welsh-based group to access that funding. So a little bit of support from Welsh Government can be really, really helpful in getting projects off the ground, getting people to test, do pilots of interesting work, communicate about what they're doing, network with each other to improve the way that they work. So I think that's why all of this has some relevance to those small international organizations who are based in Wales. And yeah, it's really important to get out there and support it.
Brilliant, thank you, Julian. I think it also, I think it makes the world safe more broadly. And in Wales, the organisations that are working with Wales, because they are small, that's why they're struggling to access the funding. For example, the Small Challenge Charities Fund from UK Foreign Commonwealth Office is no longer available. But small charities are able to make it go so much further because they are small, because they are agile, because they are so closely connected to their partner organizations overseas, that their delivery can be much more effective for a lot less money. Isra.
I would just like to take everyone back to the history when the Wales and Africa program started. It started following public demand on more support for our Welsh representation at the international stage. So the public actually demanded that, and the people in Wales care about the international solidarity, they support to many African countries, and it's something that's still present within the Welsh community. You see that when you talk to community groups, you talk to individuals in Wales, whether in Cardiff, in the valleys, wherever, people do care about that, and would highly, recommend and suggest for the Welsh Government to continue supporting these groups. Small groups, but they're doing an amazing job. And I know so many people dedicating more than their work time to just work on solidarity work. I see people are very passionate about it, and that the thing that you mentioned, Catherine, regarding the strong connection with partners in Africa, that's very distinct, because compared to bigger organizations, the Welsh charities have stronger connections, almost sometimes personal connections to partners in Africa, and I think that is quite important for the long-term partnership itself. I think it's very important for us to have that collective a view, and for us to come together and to learn from each other, and to support the solidarity work itself, and the cutting of the aid is very devastating, and will disproportionately impact the small charities in Wales, because most of our charities are small in Wales, and it would be really sad to see that ending after so many years of amazing work. So I think would be shameful, I would say, for that legacy to end. In Wales. I think would be very supportive, the Welsh Government, and support for our groups in Wales who are doing work overseas in Africa and other low and middle income countries. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Isra. Okay, so we're going to move on now into practical action. So those are the 10 recommendations, and these are, what has prompted the recommendations, where they come from, and how we view them. We're going to talk quickly now about collective voice. So Aileen is going to take us through that, and then Julian is going to talk about practical steps that you can take as members of the Wales Africa community to engage with these recommendations and how to advocate for your charity. So Aileen, over to you, please.
Fab, diolch, Kath. So I'm here to talk about collective advocacy, or campaigning together, and why we should do it. And we've already talked about how it can be very hard environment at the moment, trying to find funding, trying to get volunteers, trying to support partners, trying to find visas. All of these things can take a top priority. And we can also feel that we don't have the knowledge across these 10 questions, and that we're not specialists in the area. But the fact that you've turned up, that you're watching this, means that you probably are one of the most informed and engaged people about Wales and Africa in Wales, and that your voice can make a difference. So I'm going to try and give you 3 reasons why we should do campaigning together and be asking for these 10 recommendations, both of candidates in the Senedd elections, of current MSs, of the government, and of also other public bodies. We can talk about these recommendations too. So the reasons are, and I'll explain more of them in detail, is that number 1, it boosts ourselves and our communities. It makes us strong. Second of all, it gives us a louder voice and makes politicians listen. It makes us visible. And third is that it works and is effective. And let's all do things that work. That's brilliant. So first reason is that it helps make us strong. So it boosts ourselves. When we are working together with others, it improves our mental health. It helps spread our message of our charity wider. Like here today, we're talking about fair trade, and we're talking about health, and we're able to cross-promote our ideas. We get to increase our own knowledge. We learn about things going on. When you're in such a small organization, it can be really helpful to have others who are working in similar situations to learn from. It reduces our isolation, and it also gives us hope. In these times, we need hope, and working together can really help give us that. The other thing is that it lightens our workload. Our fair trade community groups, several of them are doing joint events at the moment with green and environmental groups, and they don't have to do the whole organisation of the event themselves, which we know is a lot of work. And so it really boosts ourselves and our communities. The second reason that we should campaign together is that it makes our voices louder when we all talk together, and it makes politicians listen. And Isra mentioned earlier about the formation of Wales Africa and how that came about through joint voices all calling for the same thing. Candidates who are MSs who are standing for election this May in the Senedd, their knowledge of Africa could be very limited indeed. They may not know a lot about it. They will have watched The Lion King as a child. They will have been to an Oxfam shop. They will have heard of fair trade. They will have heard of Nelson Mandela, and they will know about the slave trade and colonialism. But for a lot of people in the UK, that is their sort of limited knowledge on Africa. So you are an expert, even if you think you are not, and you are able to talk to candidates about the rich partnerships and the fabulous culture and all the work that goes on between Wales and Africa. We can help them join the dots, as I talked about earlier, and see how our work fits in that bigger picture of what's going on. When we use shared language and talk about global solidarity or global responsibility, these are the sort of words that a candidate will think about. And where after the election, when we have a whole new Senedd of 90 MSs, many of whom will be new at politics, the fact that we can give them these 10 recommendations and say, this is what you can ask about, this is what you can do, will really help raise the profile of Wales Africa and help strengthen and make visible the fact that people in Wales care about these issues, because we know that people care about it. Those politicians might not know, and sometimes it's who shouts the loudest who gets heard. So we're asking you to shout when we work together. It makes our voices louder, it makes politicians listen, it makes us more visible. And that's really important in the world of today. So it boosts ourselves and our communities, it makes politicians listen. And the third thing is that it works. It is effective. When we work together, we are more effective than when we campaign separately. And the example I'm going to talk about here is the Social Partnership and Public Procurement Act, the SPPP. It was a bill and it was going through the Senedd 3 or 4 years ago now. And at first, many of our organisations in this sector were talking and campaigning on it. Size of Wales were talking about deforestation. Amnesty International were talking about human rights. WWF Cymru were talking about environmental impact and biodiversity loss. Oxfam Cymru were talking about women's rights and gender. Hub Cymru Africa ourselves, we were talking about fair trade. And together, what we needed to do is talk about one issue, because so many people were interested in this act, which was about procurement and the things that government and local authorities buy and the services that they obtain, that we started joining together and talking about global responsibility. And when we talked about global responsibility, we began to be heard in the Senedd. We were able to get to a tied vote, and we were able to speak to all parties, and all parties heard our voice, and we managed to get the Conservatives and Plaid and the Liberal Democrats to join together and vote for the same motions to be passed, which was really excellent work that we did. And as I mentioned previously, this act is now being rolled out this coming year, and global responsibility is part of what local authorities will have to do now, which is brilliant. And so that helps strengthen us as organisations. I have more leverage when I can go to a public body and say, the government is telling you to do this, and I can help you, rather than the government saying nothing and me going and saying, oh, please, could you do this? It's a different dynamic. And so it's effective. So yeah, the three reasons we should do collective advocacy is because it keeps us strong, boosts ourselves and our communities. It makes us visible by making our voices heard and making politicians listen. And it keeps us well supported because it works, it achieves things, and we are able to make a difference. We're able to make a difference even when it doesn't feel like it, even when it's a slog, and even when we feel like we've failed. Um, and it can be really easy to lose hope. And so my last example is going to be about a supermarket called Sainsbury's, which I'm sure many of you have heard of. And they do a wide range of fair trade products. And they were one of Fairtrade's biggest supporters and really making a difference in the lives of producers of cocoa and sugar and bananas, and coffee and tea. And they've been doing that for years. And back in 2017, which is 9 years ago now, they announced that they were leaving the fair trade system, that they were going to start with their tea, and that they were going to no longer have fair trade tea, and that they were going to expand that to all their other products over time. We in Wales, in Fairtrade Wales, and in lots of other organisations, worked together, and within a week we had 80,000 signatures across the UK. And we went to Sainsbury's AGM because they announced it a week before their AGM, or CAFOD did, for us, and they announced that there were many people that wanted Sainsbury's to keep their tea. Here in Wales, we were at the Royal Welsh Show. We had the bishops coming. We got the faith groups involved, and faith groups are hugely important in the work that we do as well. And so Sainsbury's were hearing many, many voices that people actually wanted fair trade and that their shoppers wanted fair trade, which is really important for Sainsbury's, that their shoppers wanted fair trade. And what happened back in 2017? They stopped doing fair trade tea. They stopped, and it feels miserable, and you think you haven't got anywhere, and you think, oh, we put all that work in, and Sainsbury's didn't listen. But the truth of the matter is that Sainsbury's did listen. Sainsbury's didn't want to lose face, and this is the case with a lot of businesses. They moved away from fair trade for their tea. They moved towards their own scheme, which they had already planned and set up before they made the announcement. What they didn't do is switch any of their other products to fair trade, away from fair trade. They kept the coffee, they kept the sugar, they kept the cocoa. And last year, if you're in the fair trade world, you may well know there were many announcements, such great news. Sainsbury's is joining the fair trade system. They're signing up all of their tea to fair trade in 2025. And it was a fabulously positive story because it is a positive story. And I think only one news article ran the fact that they dropped it 8 years before. But it took that long, and it took that long because shoppers showed they wanted that in numbers. It got to 100,000 in the end, the petition, because they showed that. It meant that Sainsbury's then had to listen to the organisations such as the Fair Trade Foundation and such as the tea producers to actually discuss why fair trade is better than other systems and why they want to keep doing it and how they can slowly change back. And so the work that you do on collective advocacy and on campaigning together, on talking to your candidates, businesses, all and funders all need to hear that these things are important to the general public before they will engage with national organisations such as ourselves to start talking about these issues and making change, which is a long-term process. So that is why we should campaign together. And with a proverb that we use quite a lot in the fair trade system, if you want to go fast, you need to go alone. But if you want to go far, you need to go together. And that is why we should care about these 10 recommendations and we should be advocating for them.
Aileen, thank you very much. Really appreciate that. And I loved the examples, particularly the bit about like it feeling hopeless, because it really can sometimes, can't it? It can really feel it feels daunting to start with, particularly if it's not anything you've done before, and then when nobody listens, it feels really frustrating. But I think the thing that for me that I took away about that was about collective action, because in our charity sector, small charities were, I don't mean to keep talking about funding because I know there's a lot more of other things, but with that being the kind of the primary challenge, and it takes up so much of your time and so much of your energy, and it does sometimes feel like you're in competition with each other. Sometimes it feels like, well, we're both going for the same grant, and if I tell all my friends that work in the sector or that volunteer in the sector about this grant, then the more people will apply, and then I've got less chance of getting it. But it's that we wouldn't have the Wales Africa grant if there wasn't that advocacy in the first place. So it is about, particularly at this moment where, what happens if we lose that? I think it's really important that we're not in competition with each other. We all have a shared aim and we all want to come together to advocate for the same things, because it protects all of us and it supports all of us to continue to do the work that's really important to us. And I love listening to what everybody does and how all the different partnerships work. And yes, I think mine is the best, but I'm also in awe of so many other organizations' work, and I, really want to see them succeed. So yeah, let's not be in competition with each other on this point, isn't it? Julian, would love if you could talk to us about practical actions, because I don't know about anybody else here, but it's daunting. It's not something I've done a lot of. So how do I get started?
Okay, well, I think, the important thing is that politicians in Wales and people who get elected to the Senedd understand that there is public support and there is public demand for global solidarity. I would say that the voices against are very loud, and can be quite dominant, particularly if you happen to be on Facebook or X. You can see quite a lot of vitriol cast around about tree planting in Uganda, about the Welsh Government's foreign aid, and we've seen quite clearly some political parties come out very strongly. In fact, one reform candidate was questioned on TV a couple of months ago. What would be different? What would you do differently in government? And the only thing he could think of was to not be planting trees and not support tree planting in Uganda anymore. Now, the fact is that the Welsh Government's Wales Africa programme, the budget for that is about £1 million a year. In the context of the overall Welsh Government budget, that is hardly anything. It is what, about 35p or something per person in Wales. So there's not a lot of money going into that. But I think, the important thing is about the principle of it, of getting people to say, we support Wales as being an outward looking, globally responsible nation. And the thing is that at the moment, politicians are in listening mode. Every vote counts. The new Senedd system means that there will be 16 constituencies in Wales. Each of those constituencies will elect 6 members of the Senedd. So the outcome overall will be quite proportional. And it also means that tactical voting kind of stops being a thing, really. People are able to vote how they feel. You don't have to worry about a certain party beating another party. If you very much support one party, then you can vote for them, and be, reasonably confident that that party can get seats. So they are all out there at the moment. They're all receptive. They're all listening. They're all taking notes. So I would say think about where these people are. What are those opportunities to engage with people and to get messages through? Um, and let me have a little look if I can share this with a couple of opportunities. Um, And now politicians may well be turning up on your doorstep over the next few months. And I would suggest don't just shoo them away with a broom, as you might be inclined to, but good opportunity. Obviously, global responsibility isn't going to be the only thing that you care about. There are we all live in the real world. We all have concerns about things like healthcare, education, and the economy. But I would encourage people to say, by the way, I support this kind of work. This house is very keen on supporting global solidarity, and I want to know what you're going to do about it, or why are you opposing it, or why are you not saying more positive things about it. The other thing is that candidates will also be out in hustings meetings. There'll be different organisations in Wales will be organising these public meetings, which candidates will rock up, and they'll be coming along to talk about their priorities. So I would say go along, get involved, ask questions, applaud, boo, make clear what your opinions are about the policies that people are talking about. Um, I say also don't really be afraid of getting involved in some of those online conversations. Um, I think generally I would probably avoid weighing into some of the most toxic, horrible things that are happening online. And it is true that actually, if you go to the very worst accounts on X and start lambasting them, then in many ways, what you're doing actually is just amplifying their reach, because you're adding to the algorithms that say this is an interesting thing that's going on. So personally, I wouldn't really get too involved in those. But if there are conversations happening on your local newspaper Facebook page, local Facebook groups, community groups, then I really would rather see those conversations not being dominated by people who are just pushing hostile, nasty lines about the work that we can do in Wales and how we can be globally responsible. So I would say get in there, talk to people, also to talk with your friends and family. And there's a lot of conversations that we all have with people round the dinner table, in the pub, in places of worship, about politics, about what's going on. So please do not be afraid of talking about the things that are important to you, the projects that you do, the things that you run, and talk about those and make sure that people are aware that actually real people are doing these things, and real people are benefiting, and that it's important to you. I'd also say to not neglect things like local newspapers, that you can get involved in the debate by writing letters to the editor, for example, talking about the positive projects and the wonderful things that are going on. There are lots of opportunities for you to do that. And I do feel that a lot of the sector in Wales, there are people doing amazing projects. They're doing brilliant things, but they are not good at talking about them. They're not so keen about stepping out there and talking about the great things that are going on. So I would say, please do go and talk about those things. Um, and while trying to use some of those opportunities, I would say my top tips generally would be to be positive, be promoting positive messages. Don't feel you need to get dragged into rowing with idiots about some of the specifics and some of the stupid things that they say. Actually, there is room there just to be going out saying, my project does this, we achieved these things, I'm really proud of it, and I'm really happy that we got some support from Welsh Government. Either we got small grants, or we were able to access funding information through Hub Cymru Africa, or we got some really good training, or we met another group up the road that does something similar, and we learned from them, and we're really happy about that. So I would say go around promoting your projects. And you can do that online. You can do it in your local newspapers. You can even write to your current members of the Senedd. You can write to candidates and talk to them and say, we're doing these good things. What do you think of that? Do you really oppose this work? Do you not want to support some of this work? And I would say avoid name calling. It's very easy to do it. I've done it myself, I'm sure, a fair bit, especially online spaces. It's very easy to denounce people, and go after them of their personal characteristics. I would say, again, keep positive, keep talking about good things and promoting very positive messages. And then finally, again, I just come back to that whole don't be shy. Um, we need people to stop being so coy about the great things that they do. We need people to go out there, talk about it, and make sure that people in our communities and politicians are aware of the amazing things that we're all doing.
Sorry, I was making notes. I forgot that we were recording. Thank you very much, Julian. I found that really helpful. I have about a million questions. Can I ask everybody else to put their questions in the chat or raise their hands if they have any? This also goes for Isra and Aileen as well. But Julian, my first question, uh, how do you, what would you say to support people who feel that the current climate can be quite toxic and that um, people might be afraid to draw attention to themselves? You know, charities are being targeted. You gave the example about tree planting. If charities, particularly small charities, may feel concerned about, you know, being targeted if they talk about what they've done, um, you know, about their work. How would you respond to that? Sorry if that's a hard one on the spot.
Oh, it is a hard one on the spot, isn't it? And I think particularly that if you feel vulnerable, and you feel that you could be attacked, then I would say don't wade in, don't get involved in that sort of thing. And there are people who will find, because of their personal characteristics or the areas in which they are, that it is difficult to do that. And sometimes, ability to do that is a matter of privilege, and we have to understand that. But I would say, if you are not particularly vulnerable or do not feel that that's difficult, then go for it. If you do, then I would say, actually we need to get together, stay in touch with each other, stay in touch with Hub Cymru Africa, and get your friends and family to support, and also to keep those lines of communication open with the sector more broadly, and that by working together we can support each other, and we can stand up for each other when things get tricky.
Thank you, Julian. I think that's a lovely point about collaboration and solidarity. Like, yeah, go to Hub Cymru Africa and get support, and also support others when you see it. I've seen, you know, a friend of mine recently, not a friend, somebody I know recently, you know, came under attack, and I just sent out a message and, you know, to check in if they're okay. And I think that that kind of thing makes a huge difference, doesn't it? Like, even if you don't know somebody that well, being able to reach out and show solidarity
Yeah, that's
can
really
make a big
important too.
difference, can't it? Yeah. And it's little things. Aileen, and sorry, Aileen and then Isra.
I think there are also quiet ways in which you can campaign. And I think that the word campaign and the word advocacy does often make you think of protests or of loudness or of extroverted passion. And for some of us, that's brilliant. And for some of us, that's terrifying. But all councillors and MSs have surgeries. Candidates might not, but you will have one constituency member of your Senedd. You also have four, is it five regional members from a variety of parties. They all hold surgeries. You could go to a surgery and speak privately and quietly with someone about the thing you're interested in. You could tell them that you're concerned for safety and those things as well, because that's also a cause that we need to be talking about. So fully agree with Julian that if you don't want to, don't. That's absolutely the right move to make. You know how to keep, you know yourself and your community best. but there are quiet ways that you can do things too. You can send emails, and you can you can send letters without necessarily having to put that out on public display.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Aline. Isra.
I think it's a difficult time for everyone, and it's easy to forget the good things that the people in the sector are doing. I think we need to remember all the great stuff that we have been doing in the last few years, and instead of focusing on the defensive mode, I think sitting, having consultations with your groups, with your people, before responding to anything, before planning to write anything, have a conversation with someone that you trust. Could be your friend, your colleague, the Hub Cymru Africa, of course, your charity. Have a conversation before you respond, or before you take any actions. And people's well-being is very important. If anyone feels not safe enough, or not safe to a campaign, as Ailey mentioned, there's so many other ways of raising your voice, and could be as much as talking, spreading the message to your groups, by your neighbors or the people that you know, talking about the things that you're passionate about, and the people that you know will not say harmful things or harmful words to you. So just I think it starts from that and can go bigger and bigger. But everyone has a responsibility. Everyone is able to, even at the very personal level, of keeping your spirit high and remembering the good work that you're doing and being proud of it. I think it's very important, despite all the negativities that we might face, and we have been facing, especially lately with the elections coming up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Isra. That leads us on really nicely into the next bit, was about kind of Hub Cymru Africa's role. I have lots of questions, but we have reached 11:30, so we'll roll on. But if anybody does have any questions, put them in the chat. And over to you, please, Julian.
Yeah, one thing I think I should mention is that if you're interested in getting involved in this sort of thing, and you run a charity, or an organization like that, then I definitely encourage you to get involved in political debate, but you need to be a little bit cautious in not going out there and saying, I work for this charity and I support this political party. And we have got an event coming up in a couple of weeks, which is all about that, how to stay safe and confident during the Senedd election period. So I've put a link to that in the chat. So that's on the 9th of April. And that'll be an online meeting, which will talk not about the kind of policies that we want to see, but we'll talk about how you can be, keep your organisation legally protected while you're getting involved in these sorts of things. Because we live in a democracy, and everybody can engage in debate. Everybody can talk about the sorts of policies that they want to see. But if you are representing a charity, then you need to be a little bit cautious about the ways that you do that. And so I'll just say, I think really, reiterate what I've already said, is that we need everybody to be getting out there, raising their voices, talking to politicians, and making sure that everybody is aware that there is a groundswell of opinion and feeling in Wales that we do want to be a globally responsible nation. We do want to be outward looking, and that we can do that without prejudicing our own well-being and welfare. And in fact, that the welfare of everybody on the planet is important for the welfare of people in Wales. So I'd encourage you to all get out there and get involved, and be pushing that message.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Fab. And I hope that Julian doesn't mind me saying this, but if you need support, if you need a sounding board to, your messaging, I'm thinking of writing this letter in this way, is that, you can always reach out to Hub Cymru Africa for support with that. They'll be excellent. And if you want to know, help with who to email, maybe we should send that out post-event. Julian and Aileen, we can pull together some websites where people can find relevant contacts, isn't it? Okay, thank you very much, everybody, for your time. I am going to finish on something. Somebody's left the meeting and they've just put some words into a private chat to me. So I'm just going to say, as a closing remarks, they've said, I'm hoping that global solidarity and Wales being globally responsible, globally responsible nation is highlighted more so the Welsh people understand the reasons why we are so involved. And yeah, we agree. So thank you very much for that comment. All right, lovely. That's a wrap.
Brilliant. Thank you, Kath.
Thank you, everybody else.
Thank you,
See
Kat.
Thank you.
y'all. Hwyl. Lovely to see
Bye.
everyone.